Terry Richmond, a former Marine, is cycling through the small town of Shelby with his earphones in. He fails to hear the cop car behind him, which suddenly hits him from his bike. Police officer Evan Marston holds his gun on Terry, claiming that Terry was fleeing from him. Another cop, Steve Lan, pulls up, his gun also trained on Terry as Evan puts him in handcuffs. The sadistic Steve threatens Terry with getting tased for trying to argue, then falsely claims that Terry's bike was reported stolen. Terry tries to explain that he had in earphones and could not hear, but the cops ignore him. Evan begins to search Terry while Steve runs his information but gets no hits. He returns and sees Terry's Marine tattoo, revealing that he is also a former Marine. Evan then goes into Terry's bag and removes a plastic bag of cash Terry was carrying to post bail for his cousin. Evan puts Terry inside his cruiser, then starts removing the cash, totaling $36,000 from the bag. Terry explains the situation with posting bail and plans to buy a truck to start a legit business. Evan plans to give Terry a traffic ticket but refuses to return the cash as he claims it may be drug money. Terry tries to protest, but the cops threaten to arrest him on bogus laundering charges and throw him into jail if he tries to fight this case in court. Despite this, Terry keeps his cool and takes his traffic ticket. The cops soon leave the area. Terry cycles into town and heads over to the town hall and meets with the clerk of court, explaining the situation with the cops. The clerk is indifferent to the situation and adds that the inmates are being moved to a state prison as the jails are being renovated. The clerk leaves, and Terry meets another employee, Summer, who shows interest in Terry's situation. She explains that the cops seized his money under the same law that fights drug cartels and all cops need is a suspicion to seize any assets. To make things worse, when the case goes to court, the $36,000 will be treated as an individual, and Terry will not be named. Terry is disappointed hearing this, but Summer knows of a way to help him get some of the cash back. A cop enters, so the two leave, as the corrupt police chief has ears and eyes everywhere. Terry explains that his cousin was an informant who took down a gang, and if he is moved to state prison, he will be unalived. The transfer is to take place this Thursday, and Summer urges him to try and gather the money before then while she prepares the forms. Terry then contacts an old business partner, Mr. Liu, asking for a loan of $10,000 as early as Monday to get his brother bailed. The timing is short, but Liu agrees to help him out. Not wanting to leave town, Terry camps out in the forest, catching fish for his meal. He pulls up the location of the police station, planning to pay them a visit in the morning. He turns up to the station and speaks with a female cop, Jessica, to report the stolen money, but when she hears that the suspect is a cop, she gets nervous and steps away. At that moment, Steve approaches Terry, warning him to leave or be arrested for filing a false police report. Terry refuses to back down from Steve, but before the tension can escalate, Police Chief Sandy intervenes. He takes his officer's side, warning Terry to stop harassing his officers. He figures out that Terry has been recording their conversation and orders him to leave the station. Seeing his position, Terry tries to make a deal with the officers. Just give him $10,000 so he can bail his cousin, and they can keep the rest. Sandy has Jessica leave the room, then agrees to Terry's deal once he signs a forfeiture form, which they will have in office on Monday. Terry then returns to his camp in the woods, having given up on his dreams of buying his truck. On Monday, Terry arrives at the station but learns from Sandy that the transport bus has already left. Terry leaves without saying a word, filled with rage and trying to catch up with the transport bus. He catches the bus on the highway and sees his cousin Mike, warning him to stay low as people know his identity in prison. The two manage to touch fists, and Mike promises to get him out. He contacts Lou but learns he can no longer honor their deal as the cops have raided his business after Terry named them in his statement. He goes back to speak with Summer, who reveals that she started looking into things but got serious pushback and is worried about losing her job. She refuses to help any further and asks him to leave. Terry exits the building, but Summer rushes out to speak with him. She tells him she uncovered a conspiracy to defraud misdemeanor defendants by holding them longer than usual in jail. She has created printouts to give to Terry but cannot help him any further. To get Mike out, his only hope is to come up with cash, and Summer promises to have the documents ready. The cops do a background check on Terry and list out all his credentials, including his McMap instructor certification, which they originally think is a navigator license. Before Jessica can look up what McMap means, Terry pulls up to the station. Sandy steps out to speak with Terry, revealing that he purposely misled him as Terry isn't anyone special to make any deals. He again threatens Terry with jail time, but this time Terry isn't messing around. He steps up to Sandy, reminiscing on his Marine days where he learned a lot of acronyms, including PACE, planning, alternative, contingency, and emergency. His plan to bail his cousin was thwarted, his alternative was dishonored by Sandy, his contingency was lose help, which was also thwarted by Sandy, and now, Terry threatens to go to E. Just then Jessica pulls up the meaning of McMap and learns Terry is a renowned Marine Corps martial arts instructor. Steve tries to warn Sandy, but Terry swiftly disarms him. In a well-calculated move, Terry disarms both Steve and Sandy easily, holding Sandy at gunpoint and heading into the station. Terry knows Jessica is hiding and calls her out, ordering her to handcuff the two cops. He has Jessica find his money in the evidence room, but still honors the deal and takes only $10,000. He then has Jessica escort him out of the station under apparent arrest to avoid drawing any suspicion to himself. He has Jessica drop him off at an abandoned road. Knowing that the cops are hunting for him, Terry hurries to the courthouse to post bail. It is a tense moment as the cash is being counted and the documents are being signed by the judge, and the bond is posted just before officers flood the courthouse and detain Terry. Terry is not placed in jail but is secretly transported along a dirt road by Steve and Sandy. While inside the station, Terry had noticed large sums of seized cash and weaponry, and Sandy explains that they used the seized cash to fund their own salary. Sandy is more worried about Terry blowing his entire operation and wants to make a deal with him. He drops Terry off at a medical center where his cousin will be flown into as he was attacked at the prison. They return Terry's cash to him and have paid off his truck in full, wanting him to walk away or face prison time. Terry accepts the deal with the hope that Mike will be okay, but soon learns that Mike has passed away. He removes his camping gear from the forest, and Summer gives him a ride. They are being followed by a cop car, but Terry tells her to play cool. She shows him files of other inmates the cops have defrauded, but Terry refuses to help her as he only cared about saving Mike. The cop car follows them to the county lines, then leaves them be. Summer drops Terry off at the gas station, and he leaves a number with her, telling her to contact him with more info on the cases. He has decided to help her since she made an effort to help him. Terry then goes to pick up the truck. That night, Summer wakes up to shadows moving in her home. She goes to the bathroom and sees an open syringe and realizes she has been injected. Summer starts to feel ill and barely manages to call Terry for help. Terry rushes over to the home where he sees Summer almost unconscious in the bath. Turns out Summer was injected with drugs and now fears it will be used against her and she will lose custody of her child. She tells Terry about her divorce and how she lost her family due to an incident that labeled her a felon. She plans to keep quiet about the attack in order to protect what she has worked for and to show up to work like nothing happened. She urges Terry to leave town and to grieve his cousin, reassuring him that she will be okay. The following day, the two say their goodbyes and Terry plans to leave town. Summer gets to work and is immediately summoned to see the judge as he was tipped off about her drug use. She is then ordered to complete a drug test on the spot, and she breaks down in the restrooms, knowing her life is over. Terry is driving along a dirt road when he passes a cop car, which starts to follow him. It is Steve who signals for him to pull over. When he does this, two other cop cars block the road, and Terry knows something is going down. He approaches, hand on weapon. Terry wonders why he didn't use his lights, but Steve does not want the dashcam to record. He suddenly tosses a gun into Terry's truck and opens fire, hitting him, but Terry manages to tase him before escaping into the woods under heavy gunfire. Terry ditches the car under a bridge and contacts Summer, who tells him about a visit she got from the cops warning her to leave town. Terry then gives her instructions on how to get to Lou, and he will meet her there. When she arrives, Terry is already there getting treatment for his gunshot wound, as Lou is an old former Korean Army medic. The two then plan their move going forward. They understand that the cops are coming after them because of what Summer uncovered, but Terry plans to stop running and give the cops what they deserve. That night, Summer and Terry meet with a friend of Summer named Elliot, who is afraid to reveal any information about the corruption. In code, he hints to the duo about a large settlement case that happened recently with the town, which is linked to the recent corruption, and that the town judge knows everything about it. Terry and Summer break into the judge's residence that night, and he immediately decides to talk in fear of his life. There was a case of police illegal search which led to wrongful death where Sandy was named personally, and the settlement nearly bankrupted the town. After this, the cops started to flag any cases that may get them sued and reduce charges to misdemeanors where bail amounts are not contested by a public defender. Money from this operation then flowed into the town, and everyone kept their mouths shut. Summer deduces that the stored dashcams are at the courthouse and would be enough to shut down the corrupted department, and Terry wonders what exactly happened in Mike's case. Summer demands information on how to gain access to the footage but realizes that the judge has purposely overdosed on his pills after he was alerted by Elliot of their arrival. They watch from a distance as the medics come to collect the judge. They plan to infiltrate the courthouse basement to steal the drives. They break into the courthouse through a rotted basement window and are walking through the catacombs when they see a trail of gas on the ground. It is suddenly lit, but Summer stops the blaze with a bottle of water. The cops are trying to burn the courthouse down, so they hurriedly locate the stash of SD cards. Terry reignites the blaze to not cause suspicion. Summer cannot leave just yet and sees an opportunity to fix her life. While Terry exits the courthouse and goes to bring the car around, Summer breaks into the courthouse lab and attempts to destroy her urine sample, but she is found by Steve. Terry is waiting for her when he sees the cops forcing Summer into a Jeep and speeding off. Terry follows the Jeep back to the police station and sees them take off again, leaving one cop sitting in his car. Terry rams the car and drags the struggling cop out, almost choking the man out. Terry cuffs him and demands to know where the men are taking Summer. The man denies knowing anything and begs Terry to spare him as he is not like the others. He has the cop radio Sandy, then tells Sandy he has the SD cards and the two plan to make a swap, the cards for Summer's life. The next morning, Steve is the exchange point with a team lying in wait to ambush Terry. Meanwhile, Terry, sitting in his car, contacts Sandy, who is still at the station with Jessica. He reminds Sandy of their talk about de-escalation, telling him they are way past that point. At that moment, Evan comes upon a car parked on a bridge and calls it in. He approaches the car cautiously with his gun drawn, but it is the captured policeman. It turns out that Terry is at the police station and rips a part of the wall out. Sandy calls for backup before pulling his gun and going to check, but Terry ambushes and shoots him with beanbag rounds. Jessica tries to arrest him, but Terry disarms her. He knows she is the one who has been helping Summer and urges her to do the right thing for Summer and hands her the SD cards. Terry threatens to burn all the station's cash unless he has proof that Summer is safe. Just then, the cops pull up and surround the station, and at that moment, Jessica holds her gun to Terry. She has him walk outside at gunpoint and hands the SD cards over to Steve, who destroys them. He then shows Terry a passed out Summer, whom he has injected with more drugs and is on the verge of overdosing. Steve aims his gun at Terry to kill him, but Evan cannot go through with his plan. The two begin to argue, which then escalates into a standoff. Sandy suddenly shoots Evan in the leg to disarm him but ends up hitting an artery. Terry uses the confusion to grab the money and Evan and get behind cover as the cops open fire. He then throws flashbangs at the cops, sending them running for cover. He then throws smoke grenades, and using the cover, he begins taking out the cops skillfully until he ambushes Steve, beating him unconscious. Terry then rushes to the car holding Summer and activates its lights and the dashcam. He hits her with Narcan, then helps Evan into the car. Steve tries to shoot, but his gun is empty, so he grabs onto Terry as he takes off. At that moment, Summer wakes up and pushes him from the car. The cops manage to hit the car tires, but the trio escape onto the highway. Sandy and the cops chase after the car and catch up with it. Sandy orders Jessica to do a pit maneuver on Terry. They prepare to be rammed, but Jessica passes Terry and does a pit maneuver on Sandy's car. The other cops have had a change of heart and begin escorting the three to a hospital. Terry carries her inside, before grabbing an axe and cutting the DVR from the car which had captured footage of Sandy firing at them, and sits with the evidence to catch his breath.